What's up guys, Sean here, and today we're going to talk about Cyntoia Brown being granted clemency. A couple of videos ago, I talked about the Cyntoia Brown case and the misrepresentations that the left-wing media, and specifically the Young Turks, were reporting about the case. And since that time, Cyntoia Brown has actually been granted clemency by the governor of Tennessee, and on August 7th of this year, she will be released on parole. As I've stated numerous times, I'm not in favor of the sentence Cyntoia Brown got, specifically because she was 16 at the time that she committed the crime. It has always been my position that it's fundamentally immoral to give children life sentences, and I find it hypocritical that somebody under the age of 18 is considered a child in multiple circumstances in the United States of America, except when it's convenient for the prosecution. I want to make that clear that fundamentally I am not against reducing her sentence in principle, and I don't disagree with the governor's decision. It also needs to be pointed out that Cyntoia's conviction was not overturned on appeal. Clemency is an inherently political process, and essentially she was granted a reprieve by the governor. So if you think her being granted clemency is a marker of innocence, you're sadly mistaken. The problem I have with the Cyntoia Brown case, and the problem you should have with the Cyntoia Brown case, is the way it's being misrepresented by the media to portray her as the victim when she's clearly guilty. And a perfect example of a network that's putting out that propaganda is the Young Turks.
The governor of Tennessee has granted clemency to Cyntoia Brown, a woman who was given a life sentence when she was only 16 years old. She was trafficked into prostitution, and during one situation with a man who had solicited sex, she felt threatened. She felt that he was about to harm her, and she defended her life by shooting him.
Wrong, incorrect, you're lying, not accurate, not even close to what happened. Like I said in my previous video on the subject, while Cyntoia Brown says that Johnny Allen may have been reaching for a gun and she shot him in self-defense, the forensic evidence directly disproves her testimony. And this is well known and obvious to anybody who bothered to do the research. Cyntoia Brown shot Johnny Allen in the back of the head while he was sleeping, then took a shower, then robbed him. While this might not be the version of the story you're familiar with if you're getting your information from Instagram posts from celebrities, I assure you that page 2 of Cyntoia Brown's appeal under the factual background section of the case is a little more accurate than what you're hearing from the Young Turks. It's right there and it's plain to see. Johnny Allen was found with his hands underneath his head with his fingers partially interlaced. He cannot reach for his gun with his hands under his head and his fingers partially interlaced. He had no defensive wounds on his body. Cyntoia Brown shot him in the back of the head while he was sleeping. 100% irrefutable, not a self-defense case. Another thing you won't hear from the Young Turks and most of the mainstream media is that while Cyntoia Brown was in jail, she made a phone call to her adoptive mother. Now, Cyntoia might not have realized that phone calls from jail are monitored and recorded, because while on that phone call, she was recorded saying that she executed Johnny Allen, which is also readily available information on page 7 of the same appeal document we referenced earlier. That document will be linked in the description box below. Now, another trick that the Young Turks and the left-wing media try to pull when talking about the Cyntoia Brown case is they start talking about Cyntoia's pimp, or maybe boyfriend, it's actually unclear. They start reporting Cyntoia's stories about this man as if they are fact, and the audience comes away with the impression that Cyntoia shot her pimp, when in reality, she did not shoot her pimp. She just shot some random John.
I want to go back to how she was forced into prostitution in the first place and to the crime. So she says she was afraid for her life, that he was reaching for his gun, and that's why she acted. Prosecutor said no, she just wanted to shoot him for the money. She did take money from the scene. And when asked, why did you take money from the scene if you just shot him because you were afraid for your life? She said, because my pimp, if I came back with no money, would hurt me really, really badly. And you know what the name of her pimp was? This is real. Cutthroat. Okay. So how did she get trafficked into sex in the first place? She was raped repeatedly. The first time, the guy choked her until she passed out unconscious and then raped her. Okay. And then made her go into prostitution. Otherwise, he was going to keep on hurting her.
Seriously, go into the comments of any of the videos and you'll notice that half the people who are supporting Cyntoia Brown believe that she shot her pimp, when that's not the case. Furthermore, Cyntoia's story about her pimp should be treated with extreme skepticism. We know for a fact that she was lying when she said Johnny Allen was reaching for his gun, because once again, his hands were under his head and his fingers were partially interlaced. Knowing that she's a proven liar means we should treat her other claims with extreme skepticism, especially when you take into account that she didn't shoot Johnny Allen with any of his own guns. She shot him with a gun that she brought to the scene of the crime, which means she had a gun. So at any point in time, she could have presumably shot her abusive pimp, but she didn't. She shot a man in the back of the head while he was sleeping, then robbed him and went to that pimp. And it should be very troubling that the same people who often treat legitimate criticism as victim blaming are in this case victim blaming. I've seen people call Johnny Allen a pedophile when A, Cyntoia Brown is 16, which is the age of consent in a third of the states in the country, in the whole country of Canada, and it's also the age of consent in most of Europe, except in the places in Europe where the age of consent is lower. So unless you think all of those modern Western countries have legalized pedophilia, I would suggest that you need to look up the definition of that word.
There's a line somewhere, and that's why this issue is super hard. I believe 16 and this is my personal belief, you're an adult. In my world, it's not the world that exists here, that if it's my 16-year-old son or daughter and they want to have sex, maybe as a parent I'm uncomfortable, but I understand it, okay? If they want to drink, at 16, you are perfectly capable. It's not that you're not emotional, it's not that you're the same as a 46-year-old in terms of, you know, emotional, mental state, etc. But how long are we going to keep these people as kids and stuff?
Number two, according to Cyntoia, this was her first encounter with Johnny Allen. There is no evidence whatsoever that Johnny Allen even knew Cyntoia Brown was underage at the time. I would love to be able to investigate that fact and ask him about it, but I can't because Cyntoia shot him in the back of the head while he was sleeping to rob him. There's so much false and misleading information about this case, it's ridiculous. For instance, a lot of people in the mainstream media have taken to reporting that Johnny Allen bought Cyntoia for the night.
Cyntoia Denise Brown has served 15 years of a life sentence for killing a man who bought her for sex when she was just 16 years old.
This, of course, implies that he made a deal with her pimp to have access to Cyntoia when that is not the case. According to Cyntoia, they met in the parking lot of a Sonic. He offered her $100, she wanted $200. They split the difference, settled on $150. Then Cyntoia voluntarily, of her own volition, got into his car and they went back to his house, where she shot him in the back of the head while he was sleeping, showered to wash off the evidence, and then robbed him. She took his guns, his car, and his pants, which contained his wallet. Inside his wallet was $173, which means that Cyntoia murdered a man in his sleep for $23. Again, this isn't an opinion that I got from looking at a celebrity social media post. These are verifiable, indisputable facts about a case, pulled directly from the court documents. Cyntoia Brown murdered Johnny Allen in cold blood, not in self-defense. She shot him in the back of the head while he was sleeping. She later, on a phone call that she didn't realize was being recorded, described her actions as her executing Johnny Allen. Not only is there no evidence to support Cyntoia Brown's claims, but the forensic evidence directly disproves her claims. It's so obvious that she's guilty when you read through her appeal. You realize that her appeals team is not disputing any of the key facts in the case. Only the hack media is reporting this as a potential self-defense case. The basis for the appeal was that Cyntoia's mom drank so much alcohol when she was pregnant that Cyntoia Brown has brain damage and she's literally incapable of understanding her actions. So if her appeals team, aka the people most familiar with the facts, the people trying to get her out of jail, if their argument is that Cyntoia Brown is too brain damaged, aka not intelligent enough to understand the crime that she committed, why is the media reporting it as a self-defense case? Why are they making arguments that the appeals team wasn't making? Why are they reporting things that have been disproven beyond a reasonable doubt? Hopefully this is the last time I have to talk about the Cyntoia Brown case, but I want to close with this final thought. If Cyntoia Brown were a white underage prostitute that shot a black John in the back of the head while he was sleeping in order to rob him with a gun that she herself brought to the scene of the crime, then made statements to the police that were later disproven in court by the forensic evidence. And there was a recording of her saying that she executed the victim. And then after all of that, that white prostitute was granted clemency. We would hear nonstop about how this was a case of white supremacy, white privilege, and black lives counting less than white lives. You think this is the first time an underage prostitute killed a John, lied about it, and then got a lengthy prison term? The reality is the media is desperate for stories of black women being victimized by white people, and there's not enough supply to meet that demand. So even when the facts prove the exact opposite of the narrative, doesn't matter, just continue reporting the narrative until it works. And it did. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. I leave it up to you to spread the word about what actually happened in this case. If you like this video, then please show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can support me on PayPal or Patreon, which, by the way, thank you so much to the generous one-time donors that I've been getting of late. This has been me telling you the whole truth about the Cyntoia Brown story. Till next time.